Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it off, got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody. Welcome aboard. It is the final. No. Is this September 1st?
It is September 1st.
Yeah, we've already passed the last day of August. September 1st, first day of September. Not the first day of fall, but we're heading that way. But lots to get to, a loaded show, lots to talk about. Of course, lots of college football as the action has begun, and it will continue on through the weekend. A loaded program with Bob Kravitz coming on, Zach Osterman, Jeffrey the Greek, Travis Miller, we from Boiler Upload. So a full and loaded show to talk about any and everything you want to talk about. And there is plenty. First, we'll get to some semi-breaking news that the ACC is expected to invite Stanford, Cal, and SMU to join the ACC. Pete Thamel first reported that from Yahoo Sports, which Rivals is a part of. His sources say that ACC presidents and chancellors have voted on this Friday to extend invitations to Stanford, California, and SMU to push the league to 18 teams, which will match the Big Ten in numbers only. Other than that, it's like comparing Bloomington South to Indiana University, I think, from a football standpoint. They still suck in football. I guess this helps somehow, but they have no football presence still. And football is what makes the money, people. But there's that. Stanford Cal doesn't get left out in the rain. SMU leaving for higher pastures from the AAC to the ACC. Just have to flip some
So now that leaves Oregon State and Washington State as the Lone Rangers out in the Pac-2 now.
That's right.
And it probably seems all the more likely that they will join the Mountain West.
They'll have no place else to go. I mean, there's no place else to go, really, John. I agree with you.
Unless the Big 12 extends more offers out to them, maybe. Who knows?
The thing is, Washington State is in Pullman, Washington. Who cares? Where Washington was in Seattle. Gigantic TV market. It's got pro sports, so boom, there you go. Pullman, Washington, it's like Bloomington, but Bloomington's next to Indianapolis. Big difference. Pullman is not next to an Indianapolis or a Seattle. Who was the other team? Oregon State. I can't always get the Oregon and Oregon. Corvallis. I always get them mixed up. Corvallis. You think of Oregon State, you just nothing rocks your core, you know. So it's not that they're not worthy, but they were kind of the hangers-on in the Big 12. I mean, the Pac-12 already. And yeah, I don't see any other place for them besides the Mountain West. The Mountain West has become the West Coast Conference
of sorts.
What's the West Coast Conference now? And does the Pac-12 name just disappear? That's That's sad to see. We appreciate everybody joining us. Welcome aboard. Of course, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to AndyMooreHonda.com to get more to your door. And, of course, the Wow Food Group and the incredible family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington and Bedford areas. Great places like Southern Stone Cafe, Kitchen, and Bar located right at the corner of Patterson and Rogers. Next door to Feast, as a matter of fact. Another great, incredible place. We'll talk about the Chop Shop here in a little bit. Home of Inside Indiana football and basketball. And the only place where you can walk on one side to the butcher and say, hey, give me that 2-inch ribeye. And they'll make it for you over in the steakhouse. And their seafood that I've been talking about, I just found out this past Wednesday when I was in there for Inside Indiana football with Tom Allen and Don Fisher. I had swordfish. It was in the ocean 2 days prior. Everything, their fish is overnighted every day. So no place around that you can beat that. Lots to get to. Appreciate everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. As Fred is on as always from Easton, Pennsylvania. Dog-faced Pony Soldier. Getting things revved up at Speedway. Speaking of Speedway, Indiana, close by up at Lucas Oil Drag Strip this weekend. You've got the U.S. Nationals happening, I believe. Tony Stewart back in town, I saw, to race, and his team as well. Five Lefts, how are you, sir? Mike, he can smell the weekend, and it's 3-day weekend. I keep forgetting that. Just a reminder, no show on Monday. Sorry, we'll have a, I don't even know if we'll have a best of, John.
I actually don't know the answer to that either. I'm going to check with our PDs after the show.
Yep. Caleb, how are you, sir? Big weekend series in Cincinnati. Cubs at the Reds, starting with a doubleheader. Oh, the weather's nice. Let's play two. Yeah, it's a gigantic. The Cubs making a little headway with the Brewers, taking 2 out of 3 from them. Speaking of the Reds, they pick up 2 outfielders. Pitching. Cleveland picks up 3 pitchers while their in-state neighbor Cincinnati picks up 2 outfielders. But they picked up one from the Yankees. I forget where the other one came from. But both hitting the ball well. Oh, the Angels, I believe. Both hitting the ball well. Ed jumping on as well. That's right. Talking about the lone 2 in there in the Pac-12. Hello, Kay. How are you? She's in New Jersey. What a great day. She's done packing the car. She's headed to Bloomington. Boy, that's I guess, not a terrible drive.
It's a decent haul, but
it's a decent haul. Don't get me wrong, but I think you can get to New York in 12 hours?
Yeah, that seems about that range, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, anything over 8 is not fun, but if it's
anything no more than 12 is doable, really.
Yes, that's doable in a day easily. It's not fun, but doable in a day. But we wish you safety first. Okay, we'll be thinking about you. Thank you so much for jumping on, though, as you're packing up, taking us with you. Thanks a lot for taking Indiana Sports Beat along with you on the ride. We appreciate you. Robert has the answer. Poach Notre Dame and invite the Hawaii Rainbows. Then the Big Ten will be a true national conference. Use an occasional trip to Hawaii for recruiting.
I wouldn't say there's nothing against Hawaii, but there's not a whole lot of talent out there in Hawaii, I wouldn't think.
That's not the point he's making, John. You're missing the big point.
Oh, he means it's like a destination.
And I'm picking up what he's laying down, baby. I'm picking up what you're laying down, and I'm all with you.
My small brain wasn't figuring it out.
I'm all in. John jumping on from Southport. How are you? There's Dwayne. How are you, sir? Tannis jumping on from the west side of Ohio. Kevin
worked.
Jeffersonville. You know, that's where we started the show originally.
That's my old stomping grounds. It's where I grew up for 11 years.
As did, boy, the brain doesn't move, as Micah Shrewsbury.
That's right.
Hello to Ed. He says, so what conference, great question, will represent the Rose Bowl since it used to be the Pac-12 versus the Big 12? Get back to that. Make sure I don't miss him. All right. What a great question. Yeah. What happens to the Rose Bowl? It's part of
the playoffs
already, and the playoffs have expanded. So let me quickly answer your question, Ed. I have no freaking idea. I don't think anybody has an idea. It's a great question. Yeah, the Rose Bowl, man. This is an institution. That's the problem. Institutions are going down, but the Pac-12 went down because of two people. Larry Scott and George Klavikoff just screwed up. I mean, what about Sharon? What did I miss from Sharon?
Jeffersonville, Indiana. People from Jeff.
Oh, yeah. Sharon's been on the show a few times. Great. One of the best. He is my favorite person to talk to now. And you want to talk about a 180 times 2, and I'm not talking about a 360. He just, man, what an amazing guy he became. Tannis says that will be the 4 Pac-12 teams that come to the Big Ten, mainly because USC owns the Rose Bowl Stadium. Well, you know, talked about the potential of moving the Big Ten championship around. Maybe they alternate it in Lucas Oil Stadium and the Rose Bowl. How would that be?
You even throw Vegas in there as well.
No.
I don't see a scenario where you don't throw Vegas in there, though.
I don't see that happening, because there are just going to be conferences that are actually in that area, and apparently LG says UCLA owns the Rose Bowl. I thought they played in Memorial Coliseum, but I guess I got them mixed up.
That's where yes, that's where USC plays.
Memorial Coliseum.
Yep.
Yeah, which is
great.
Man, this first segment always goes so fast. Bob Kravitz up next. He'll slow us down. Appreciate everybody being with us already here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. It's a big Friday, baby. It is a holiday weekend and the beginning of college football. We're back with lots more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Did you watch any football last night? I watched a little bit. I didn't watch it.
I watched a little bit. I will say that
a little bit of Minnesota, Nebraska, which was a pretty boring game, to be honest.
I did not, actually. I was watching more of the stupid Utah game, which I did not bet, which I should have.
Did you bet anything last night?
No. I was too busy. Games had already started. And
I don't know what it is. I know Nebraska's not an official rival with Indiana, but ever since their nonsense several years ago between Scott Frost and Fred Glass, I've rooted for Nebraska to lose every time they play. And I'm glad Minnesota beat them.
Now that Scott Frost is gone, I'm like, who cares?
I don't know.
I get
their
it.
Fans are probably really great people, but they collectively they kind of remind me in a small way like Kentucky basketball fans. In a small way.
Well, let me tell you why. Because they've sold out their stadiums since 1962 at 80 to 90,000 plus as it's been built and grown. And they won national champion. They used to win national championships and be in the running year after year after year. They were used to that. And you get used to that, take it away, and things aren't
so
great.
Mr. Kravitz.
Good morning. How are you, gentlemen?
Where are you joining us from today?
Looks like all sunshine in the front room.
Kitchen. Let me turn this around so it looks better. Hang on.
It looks great.
Does it look okay?
Yeah.
Nice little fresh, little sunshine coming in.
All right.
Let me tell you, that's the first time you've ever brought any sun to this show.
No shit. I'm not a sunshine guy.
John, where is my rim shot, John? I need that, man.
You got your own rim shots. You got your own rim shots. I think you just need to have a little drum kit in your room.
You know what? If I had that Roadcaster, if you don't think I'd hit that rim, bam. That's what that's for. I'm going to use it too.
Oh, I used the number at my golf club and it worked fine. So we're all set. I got a few bucks to play with, and when I run out, I'll let you know.
Perfect.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate all your hard work.
And I wonder if I could just use that same one.
Gosh,
I'll research that and make it easier for you.
Yeah, here we go, guys.
$99. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Friday here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway, and Bob Kravitz joins us from. Where would I say? I like to say from Bob Kravitz. Bob Kravitz from Bob Kravitz.
Substack.com. BobKravitz.substack.com.
That's how I just have to start saying the intro then.
Well, you do it any way you want. It's your show, Jim.
No, I always like to make everybody happy. But yeah, make sure you reach out to Bob or follow Bob. First of all, follow him at bobkravitz.substack.com. Be a subscriber.
Yes.
I am a subscriber. Be a subscriber. That way you do not miss anything. And Lord knows you cannot miss anything from Bob.
Can I say something real quick? I want to thank everybody who has made this one of the fastest growing Substacks in the Substack world. This thing is taken off far beyond my wildest imaginations. And I'm gratified and I'm humbled, and keep on keeping on, people. I'll give you
I'm taking all the credit, baby.
Yes. You made all the difference. I come on this show and I get 300 subscribers just like that.
Yes, 3 maybe. No, let's hope not. Everybody, all you people that listen from wherever you're listening from, all over the place, whether it's Fozan over in Amman, Jordan, or Chris down in Australia, you guys subscribe. Keep Bob will keep you in tune to everything that's going on. Hoosiers, Colts, the whole deal. Speaking of, I guess the Colts, the Jonathan Taylor saga has just become its own thing.
It's been its own thing for quite some time now, and we thought that the Colts would be able to make, be able to make a deal, and it never came to fruition. And now they're stuck with him. And I think they are playing the long game. They're playing hardball. At some point, they may even think about suspending him, which would be a declaration of war. I think they're going to try and force him back. I think this idea that he's got a bad ankle is the biggest crock of crap I've ever heard in my life. The man had surgery a minor surgery back in January that requires a 2 to 4 week recovery period. And here we are 7 months later, and the man wants a new contract, which is fine. But he's saying, well, my ankle, I got pain. You can't put me. That's because he doesn't want to get fined. He didn't want to get fined like Chris Jones is getting fined every single day. Jonathan doesn't want to get fined $44,000 per day, which is what it would be if he was not on the PUP list. So this is ugly. Chris Ballard spoke the other day and tried to sing Kumbaya and tried.
Didn't that make it even worse?
No, I think he tried to calm the waters and suggest that maybe this thing is repairable. He didn't suggest it. He said, I think this could be repairable. I think money repairs everything, but it's clear to me that the Colts are dug in. They're not going to pay him what he wants or even close to what he wants for the foreseeable future. So it's really, the ball is in Jonathan Taylor's court at this point, it seems to me.
Yeah, I get it. It's kind of a sucky situation because he was loyal. He gave great effort. He was one of the best, if not the best, at the time. But unfortunately, it's a position that is a dime a dozen now.
It is.
The lifespan is 3.5 to 4 years, and it would be idiotic for Jim Irsay to pay him a long-term deal. It just would be. As much as it sucks and pains for me to say, it would be stupid.
And that said, I agree with you. At the same time, I do think that if everybody was being reasonable, they could come up with a number like they did with Saquon Barkley, like they did when Dalvin Cook was signed recently. If both sides were willing to give a little bit, I think you could see him going from 4 to 10 million this year. And then, we'll see what happens next year. But he doesn't want that. He wants to be guaranteed. Look, I don't blame him, Jim, because he looks at all these other players who are got an extension in the final year of their rookie deal. And he says, why not me? I ran for 1,800 yards and 1 million touchdowns 2 years ago. Last year was injury plagued, but it wasn't a major injury. It wasn't like it was his Achilles heel or something, or his Achilles. So
why is it him? Why is he not getting it?
I think part of it, and I asked Ballard that question, I think after a 4-win season, they want to reevaluate everything. I think with the new coach, his offensive style is not reliant on a dominating running back. You look at the Eagles last year, they had Miles Sanders, who's just a dime a dozen guy, and he went for 1,200 yards, and he was so valuable that they let him walk at the end of the year. So I think in the new Shane Steichen offense, they feel like they can get by with a low-paid dime a dozen running back, and we'll find out pretty damn soon.
See, I would think, and what do I know, but with your brand new quarterback that you're breaking in, he's going to start. You've had some offensive line problems already, so it hasn't been great. I would think that I would want as good a running back in the backfield as possible to try to help this transition as well, though.
You would think that, but in this offense, the quarterback helps the running back more than the running back helps the quarterback. But I agree with you in general. If you got a guy who can take it to the house anytime he touches the football. I mean, look at the Colts. Who are their home run hitters on offense? Name them. You can't. There's nobody. I mean, Alec Pierce has caught 41 passes last year. He may be a home run hitter at some point. Frankly, I haven't been that impressed with him, especially in preseason. So who's their home run hitter? They don't have any. Anthony Richardson potentially could be a home run hitter, but we don't know. We know that Jonathan Taylor can take it to the house anytime he touches the ball. He led the league in 70-yard runs, 80-yard runs, 60-yard runs. So, the whole thing, it's hard to pick a side simply because both sides, I think, have a point. I really do. Like you said, why would you pay this guy a long-term deal when these guys just don't last? You look at all the running backs who got big contracts, long-term contracts, and almost all of them are gone after a year or two. So I understand that, but at the same time, I understand Jonathan Taylor saying, "You paid everybody else. What the hell? How about me?" They're gonna be bad. They're gonna be bad. I mean,
How about me?
What's that?
How about me?
How about you? What?
Pay me.
Pay you. Yeah. I'm sure the Colts will get right around to that. You're not asking for a long-term contract.
And nothing big. I fly right under the radar. Nick says they can't get by because they're weak at receiver and tight end as well right now.
Well, they are very. I don't know what they got. I mean, I like Michael Pittman Jr. I think Pierce has got to make a big step. They got a rookie at the slot, Josh Downs, who looked good in preseason, but we'll see. But he's a rookie. And then you've got no depth there. Then you've got about 112 tight ends on this roster right now. Are any of them special? They think Ogletree can be pretty good. They think that Jelani Woods could be pretty good. Mo Alley Cox is who he is. We've seen him for years now. So I don't see where he's got much in the way of weapons to, at his disposal.
Yeah, and then you worry about the development of the quarterback when he doesn't have that stuff
Right.
around him. I mean, it's hard. First of all, just deciphering and learning and recognizing the multiple defenses, because he is going to see it all because he's a rookie. They know that they can pick on him and they are going to mask and confuse. That's what he should be focusing on. But he's got to worry about who the hell he can throw the ball to, who he can hand the ball to, who he has to run away from. He's going to have so many things on his mind. It's going to be twice as hard for him to develop, in my opinion.
He needs people around him who can bail him out. People who he can throw that quick bubble screen to, who can turn it into a 15, 20-yard gain. We know he's got a superior arm. Do they have guys who can go out and get it? And right now, the answer is I don't think so. Pittman is not a deep threat. Alec Pierce is really the only deep threat. And frankly, we don't know that he can play. And excuse me while I cough. Excuse me. You got the cough button?
Right.
You got the cough button?
Go. Well, you just boom. See how magic that was? John took great care of that. It was beautiful. Bam.
Thank you.
All right, college football starting, man. The college season is really here. I don't count week 0. That's 0 calorie weekend, and the game sucked. So,
well, both games. I watched the Minnesota Nebraska game, and Nebraska lost the way they've lost the last 100 games. In the last seconds. Late fumble. I mean, it was just so Nebraska.
Yeah. And that was, boy, what does that do for the hopes of people with Matt Rule coming in? Because I was like, all right, Nebraska is going to change. They should be a better team, which you can't expect someone to wave a magic wand.
No.
But we'll see if Deion Sanders does.
Yeah, we're all interested to see that. They've got 86 new guys. 86.
On and a one. Now, what if Deion Sanders has success? This team, Colorado, let me remind you people, last year, Colorado was 1-11.
Right.
They won one game. And so if he brings in 86 guys and he goes 8-4, he's going to just fly the double birds to everybody and say, how you like me now?
Exactly. I think it's, I used to work in Denver, and I know that the Denver journalists are having a blast, with Deion Sanders and Sean Payton, the two of them. Look, I think Deion did amazing things. Was it Jackson State? Was it? Yeah, Jackson State. in the
last night, I believe.
Yeah, and I would never dismiss Deion Sanders. He is an extraordinary talent, and
He wants to win. He wants to win.
He wants to win, and I think he's got something special about him. And I would bet you that he continues to move up the coaching ranks. But look, if he can get 3 wins out of this Colorado team, and they have a real quarterback now, his son Shador. They've got some skilled people, from what I understand. But yeah, imagine turning over a roster, 86 new guys. I'm reading in the paper this morning about how IU's got all these new guys, but it's 1/10 of what they're looking at Colorado.
Oh, absolutely. Indiana does have a ton of new faces, which should help them. But I had to do a prediction in the Hoosier.com, and I'm like thinking, all right, what do you want me to say here? Yeah, Indiana brought in a ton of talent through the portal, but they're playing Ohio State, not Ohio. And they're 3 deep. We all know it's yada, yada. It's the same old story. Indiana, we don't know who their quarterback is, but regardless of that, it's not like he's some 5A guy that we're waiting to see. It's pretty simple. Can Indiana block?
Exactly.
Can Indiana open a hole? Can Indiana protect the unnamed starting quarterback? Or it doesn't even matter who he is. You can put me in there if you're not going to protect him. The secondary, there are apparently questions with, and Ohio State, of course, has the top receiving, maybe the number 5th best receiving core in the NFL. But it's going to. My prediction was that Indiana is going to stick with whom their starter is, and at the end of the game, I think maybe they can score and get inside of the spread.
What is the spread, Jim? 30 something?
Like 30 points the last I saw. I think the biggest thing for Indiana is to come out of this as injury-free as possible and to try to get a solid gauge on your entire team and especially your quarterback. Boom.
Yeah. No, I think Ohio State, it might be close for a quarter and a half, as so many IU Ohio State games have been over the years, just because it's the first game. Nobody knows what they got. The place is going to be jacked, I would think, Memorial Stadium. And Ohio State's, well, hopefully. And Ohio State's got a new quarterback. So they don't completely know what they've got. So I think IU will keep it reasonable for a little while, and they then get blown out in the second half. And I'm going to say 45-10.
That would get them inside the spread. No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. No. That's 35.
I don't bet games that I cover, but
I'm not. Yeah. We'll see. I what did I write down? It's like 44 to 17.
Oh, you got 17. How the hell are they going to score 17 points
at the end when Ohio State brings their third, fourth string in, and IU still has his first string offense in? That's
maybe a backdoor cover.
That's what I'm hoping. That's where I'm sneak in right there. But
gotcha.
Nick asked a great question: who's going to win more games, the Colts or Indiana?
Christmas.
And the Colts have more opportunities, and I still think it's a damn. I still have to think about this question.
It's really a dead heat because I think both teams are going to win about 3 games.
I think I have to wait until I see Indiana, because if they can just be competitive and do the simple things, they don't have to beat Ohio State, but they've got to beat Rutgers. They've got to beat Maryland. They've got to beat Louisville. They've got to beat the teams that they have to beat. And, Michigan's and the Penn States will go the way that they're probably supposed to go. But we'll have to wait and see. What's up next for you, brother?
Well, I'll be down at the game tomorrow. So I hope to I assume I will see you down there.
Absolutely.
And of course, Colts season starts next weekend. So I'll have a lot of Colts material next week. Probably take Labor Day off. But other than that, a lot of Colts material coming up. Jonathan Taylor saga is the gift that keeps on giving. And, you can't write enough about Anthony Richardson. So I'll have a lot of Colts information and a lot of IU after tomorrow's game.
Appreciate you, brother. Looking forward to it, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Sounds good, buddy. We'll see you then.
Absolutely. Bob Kravitz from Bob Kravitz at Substack.com.
.substack.com.
.substack.com. I'll get it right one of these days.
There's no at.
Just if you Google Bob Kravitz and Substack, you will find it.
You'll find it.
I promise
there you go. It's at the bottom. Way to go.
Oh, thank you so much, brother. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All right, where the hell is my phone?
Excuse me. Hey, for those things that you wanted me to send over, the commercials and the returns, the only thing you wanted me to add was the Chop Shop one, right? You wanted me to add the thing about the coaches shows?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay. I was going to go ahead and send them all over to you right now, but I might wait until after the show since I have to make that change on the one. Yeah, I'll just do that. And then when I do that, I'm also going to send you the invoice for Canva because I know today's the day you'll probably send out payments and stuff. So I'll make sure you've got that too.
Yep. Payroll.
And what's his name? RC did 1 day in August.
Okay. Where the hell is my dad? What?
No, I'm setting myself a reminder of things I need to do after the show.
Yeah. Anybody listening on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you have not already. And the like buttons, please. Nick, appreciate you, man. Haven't seen you before. You can always find us at on YouTube. And if you miss anything, there's a ton of content there, so you might want to go there.
Right, here we go, guys. I say guys as if there's somebody else here but me and you, but you know. Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of Wow Food Group. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Friday. The weekend is here, and it's a 3-day one, baby. So is September 1st. Got all kinds of new things going on, and the college football season. man, it's just like spring. It's like a rebirth. Just finished up with Bob Kravitz, Zach Osterman in the next hour, along with Jeffrey the Greek, Travis Miller from Boiler Upload, as we'll be going through and making our picks. Appreciate everybody being with us. No matter how you're listening.
Oh, go ahead. Finish your thing. Sorry.
I was just going to say that if you're listening on radio on the Ref down in Evansville, 97.7 ESPN, always the right call, or our friends up on WJOB, AM 1230, 104.7 FM, the voice of the region and Chicago, over in Fort Wayne on 1380 The Fan, Fort Wayne's sports station. I can't get my phone to shut up. So we appreciate all you guys, or YouTube as well, where you can find us and never miss an episode. If you're outside of those areas, we appreciate you. Just had some new faces from Florida on. We appreciate everybody down there. Our friends at the Ugly Grouper on Anna Maria Island. Hope everyone is okay down there. Got a lot of friends. I know that storm went through the upper part of the Panhandle, up like towards Tallahassee. I need to reach out to my buddy in Tallahassee. I forgot to admit to do that, and I forgot. But hope everyone made it through that okay. And here we are. Now, John, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I believe our friend Jeffrey the Greek was at last night's Minnesota versus Nebraska game for their annual Eyes on Big podcast tailgate.
Oh, very cool.
So we'll be able to hear his thoughts and obviously his predictions for the weekend ahead.
It's going to be interesting to see what he has to say about Nebraska and what he sees for their future. But, it's not like that's where I was expecting this gigantic, fast turnaround. And someone mentioned earlier on the Andy Moranda hotline, they can't decide if they like Deion or dislike him. Here's my take. He's not cheating. He is playing within the confines of the rules that have been set before him. And he's trying to use them to his advantage. I promise you, if Colorado wins 4 games, 5 games, they're going to be ecstatic because they won 1 game last year. But making that turnaround, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes, man.
Nebraska won more than 1 game last year. You might be thinking of Northwestern.
I'm talking about Colorado.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my fault. I totally blanked out. You're talking about Deion Sanders. My apologies. Deion.
But the difference is Matt Rule comes in and probably, I'm sure they had some transfers here and there like everybody does, but no one had anything close to the 86. You only have 85 scholarship players, by the way, people. Unless that number's been raised. But it's a new team. Virtually an entire new team. But that's probably what was needed. They were 1-11. So what is there that's great? I don't have I have no issue with what Deion's doing. It's within the framework of the rules that are currently set up. He's not going to have 86 new players next year. It's just like business. If someone takes over a company that's failing, a failing company, and you go in, are you going to keep exactly the same people that were there doing the job that was obviously leading to a failing business? Obviously, leadership has a big part of that, but so does a lot of other things. So you know what? I'm not rooting for him, but I'm not rooting against him. I'm just intrigued, and I can't wait to see what he's able to do. And if he wins and turns this thing on its head, what the hell are or those that are complaining going to complain about? I know Colorado fans won't be complaining. That's for damn sure. What you will see, though, are fans of teams like Indiana saying, hey, we need some of that. Because if it can happen at Colorado, it can happen anywhere. Colorado, not exactly the bastion of historic college football. Let's see comments. Five Lefts loves Dion. He always has. He backs up what he says and does. That's just a statement of fact right there. That's a huge thing to me. He says a lot of stuff, but he pretty much backs it all up. If you can do it, it ain't bragging. That's just a fact. And he is not going to lose. I'm telling you, he is not going in this to lose. It's going to be fun. Yeah, how about SMU joining the ACC with no TV money for 7 years? 7 years. I guess that's when the grant of rights runs out. Indiana Creek Walker thinks this is going to be a great month for Indiana basketball, and it certainly can be, because it's going to be a busy, busy month for Indiana basketball. As Indiana football is kicking off the season, Mike Woodson and his staff will be bringing in a parade of nothing but high-profile targets. For the 24 and 25 seasons, they have zero commitments right now in the 24 class. Jalen Harrelson will be taking an unofficial visit this weekend. He has become the hottest, one of the hottest point guards in the country. He's 6'7", which is unheard of for a point guard in high school. He's very good. And let's say he grows another inch. He's got 2 years of high school left. This dude could play three positions in college. Transferred to La Lumiere, which I mentioned yesterday. I hate that takes him out of the running for Mr. Basketball and the All-Star team. Another discussion that we'll have, but should guys that go to prep schools in the state be eliminated from those awards? And if so, why? But Harrelson's a fringe top 10 prospect in the latest Rivals 150. He's a top 10 to me. Indiana's been hot on him for a long time. Obviously an in-state prospect, plays with Trent Sisley, who they are also on heavily. Harrelson has other offers from programs like Auburn, Duke, Gonzaga, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, and of course Purdue. Now, in addition to his unofficial visit this weekend, he is reportedly scheduled to go to Purdue on September 23rd and Auburn on September 30th, then Michigan State October 13th. Indiana also, Malachi Moreno, an unofficial visit. He is from Georgetown, Kentucky. Talked about him the other day. He plays for Coach Adams on the Indiana Elite, Adidas on the Adidas 3SSAB AAU circuit. He's a 6'11" power forward, baby. He's a big. Darius Adams also on an unofficial visit, also from La Lemure, a teammate of Jalen Harrelson. He's one of the fastest rising 4-star combo guard prospects in the 2025 class. Prior to going to the LaPorte Prep School, Adams was a standout from Manasquan, New Jersey. He averaged over 20 points, nearly 8 rebounds, and 3 assists a game, 1.5 steals. He played on the Nike EYBL circuit for PSA Cardinals out of New York. So a busy weekend for Indiana. That's this weekend. Then next weekend, you've got the Montverde Trio. Oh my, the Montverde Trio. John, I just created a singing group.
Well, I'm the Montverde Trio.
Yeah. And
What
if
kind
they
of stuff?
get,
They have to be singing rock music, right? Maybe some alt rock.
no, that a trio sounds more like a cappella.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if they land, 2 of the guys coming up, well, Derek Queen, they've been on for a long time, but Leah McNeely, they appear to be in the driver's seat for. Appear to be. Duke appeared to be in the driver's seat for Flory Badunga. So no one can ever count their chickens before they hatch. But if they landed Liam McNeely and Derek Queen, and you still have Malik Renew, they would have a Montverde trio. And I'm going to get credit for that. I'm going to make sure. Maybe
the Montverde Trio can open up the Memorial Stadium concert series.
You know what? That is a tremendous idea. It's a tremendous name for it. Wait, that's a great idea. Wait, a good play off of my talk about. I think that there should be a concert series. Why isn't there? Seriously. I think Indiana needs to do stuff like that. Anyway, that's a busy weekend for IU. Something I saw yesterday in the Star, I did not get a chance to read it, but see if I can find it.
I think Jim may have just frozen up. Jim, can you hear me? I think with that, thankfully, it is about time for our next break. So I'm going to go ahead and get us to our next break. This segment was brought to you by not only Remax Advanced Realty, but Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. If you're down in the Southern Indiana area, be sure to reach out to Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. Matt Lincoln, Matt at barberpop.com. And yeah, coming up next, we'll have Zach Osterman of the Indy Star. Oh, Jim, are you back with us?
I didn't know I was not with you.
Yeah, you fell out, and I was about to send us to break because it is that time, but you were frozen on my screen.
I'll be darned. I just looked down and I was just out of the studio for some reason. Daryl says, let's play IU men's and women's doubleheader exhibition games in Memorial Stadium.
We do still need to go to break.
Great idea. We'll talk about that when we come back, Daryl. Thank you very much, and great to see you back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
That was weird. Because I noticed, I thought you took a really long pause, and then I looked over at your screen. I'm like, oh, he's frozen. I just need to wrap this segment up then. That was where my mind went.
As soon as I heard you talking, I'm like, Why is he talking? Because I wasn't on the screen. I was on a different screen, so I couldn't see it.
Oh, okay.
And I pulled it back. I pulled it back up, and I was just sitting down not in the studio box.
You're probably really thrown off because I was talking about Barbara Bob sending this to break. Like, what the hell is he
Well,
doing?
as soon as I heard you saying that, I was like, what? That's a good idea, Daryl. I like that idea. The thing is, can they do it soon enough to where it's not too cold out? I think that would be just so, because that's not going to happen until November. And there's just, man, what a great idea. And great to see you, Daryl, wherever you're from. You can also find us on YouTube, where you can catch us all the time. I would not doubt that. They get a hell of a crowd for Iowa women's basketball, but of course, no offense, there's nothing to do in Iowa. I was having that discussion last night. There
Same
is
with
not
Nebraska,
a professional.
with the way that
there are
nothing against them selling out
no
that
professional
volleyball
sports.
game.
It's no professional sports. So, yeah.
Someone says ex-Dallas Cowboys coach Jason Garrett, next coach at Indiana.
Let's say it again. I didn't see it.
Robert Carter. He's the truth, right? I think he's the
truth.
He says Jason Garrett, the former Cowboys head coach, should be Indiana's next coach. I don't see that ever happening.
What is he even doing?
He's commentating. He did the Notre Dame game this past week. All right, anyways, here we go. Go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Cole, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Friday of a holiday weekend, September 1. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us on this college football breakout weekend. I know it officially started last week, but to me, it doesn't feel like football until week 1, Zach. Week 0 is like drinking a tab or something.
I suppose. I haven't had a tab in years.
I know, me either. I was trying to come up with something crazy. Lots going on already today. We've seen movement with the ACC adding Stanford, Cal, and not adding, inviting or going to invite Stanford, Cal, and SMU, which really, to me, all that does is it saves Stanford and Cal, or gives them a lifeline. It increases SMU's perspective, but the ACC is still extraordinarily weak in college football, where the money is coming from, and SMU is not getting money for 7 years. I don't know how the hell that's going to work. I guess
9 years, either way. I mean,
is it? Yeah, forever.
Yeah.
I guess it's the oil money that they're living on. But everybody talked about it. This is the craziest move yet, I think. But I guess those teams had to do something.
I suppose. I think. I mean, it is kind of. I mean, Stanford obviously did, and Cal, right? Cal's going into the ACC too with
Yes,
Stanford.
sir.
I mean, they needed a home, and listen, Washington State and Oregon State are in a really unenviable position now, obviously. But Stanford and Cal being located in more metropolitan areas, in Stanford's case in particular, having a very, what is my dog chewing on? That's a dog. All right, we're good. Having a very sort of rich athletic history and a very large athletic department. Stanford has one of the largest, in terms of sports sponsored, one of the largest departments in the country, or in Division I. They needed to find something. The SMU thing just, again, feels like everybody's kind of grabbing at whatever rung on the ladder they can reach. And that was probably inevitable to some extent. We all kind of wondered when we would just get to 4 power conferences, and it sort of happened maybe, I don't know. I think we all imagined there would be a more dramatic moment, but it happened in a series of dramatic moments. But we're there now. You got 4 conferences with at least 16 teams apiece. 2 of them are now coast to coast. Obviously, I'm skeptical of the long-term viability of ACC expansion insofar as there was clearly a lot of opposition to it within the conference. This was not a unanimous thing in the way that, Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC was, in a way that the Big Ten, pretty uniformly brought in the 2 Pac-12 schools last year and then the 2 more Pac-12 schools this year. You have a conference in the ACC that is already, pretty fractured in terms of you've got, Florida State sort of not so vaguely threatening to leave, Clemson, UNC, I think some others alongside FSU asking for a revised revenue distribution model that sees basically the more important schools get more money. There's always this sort of lingering question around the ACC grant of rights. So this doesn't feel like something that sort of solidifies the ACC in any overly meaningful way. And then, of course, you also have just the whole, Stanford and Cal, you couldn't be further away from Miami if you tried. But, this to me is, kind of the ugly byproduct of what we've talked about throughout conference expansion, which is that there are going to come points in time where it feels like it's no longer a beneficial thing for college sports. And I don't think this necessarily sets the ACC's course for the next quarter century. I think there's still a lot of challenges and obstacles that may wind up consuming that conference eventually. I'm not saying that's good, but it just sort of in the sort of cold, calculated way, it all kind of feels like this was, again, just sort of the inevitable, almost like, byproduct waste. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, because at the end of
the
media rights deal, when it runs out, if they have not improved their football product, their negotiating power will not be strong. So they will not be in any better place that where Florida State wants to be to get that Big Ten type money, which no one's going to get Big Ten type money except for the Big Ten and maybe the SEC. But
the SEC will get it. But yeah, that's why you've always got this floating thing around Florida State, Clemson. Again, there's some other. Like UNC is a pretty powerful brand there. They have the Jordan connections. They're better at football historically than most other sort of basketball dominated schools. They have more football history than Indiana, than Kansas, than Duke. And there's a decent amount of money behind UNC, a decent amount of just sort of clout behind UNC. Those are the schools that are always going to kind of be in that sort of floating, we're here, but if you don't keep showing us you're happy we're here, we might leave. And again, this move doesn't solve any of that, as best I can tell. So
I agree. Indiana has bigger things to worry about. They have the Ohio State Buckeyes coming in this weekend. We don't know who Indiana's quarterback is. Not that I think that matters, because I don't know anything about either other than the few generalities. I think it's going to end up being Brendan Sorsby who takes the field, just on a hunch. Doesn't matter. Whoever it is, I think plays the whole game for Indiana, because they need the reps, unless something happens. But I think that Indiana plays one guy and he plays the whole game. I don't know what's going to happen on the field, or unless it's a blowout. But I think Indiana plays one quarterback.
See, I agreed with that for a long time, and Tom Allen has always been loath to go with two. When he's had quarterback battles in the past, but the only time he ever really purposely rotated was just to give Michael Penix some snaps his true freshman season before his first ACL injury. When he switched from Richard Lego to Peyton Ramsey, he stuck with Ramsey until Ramsey wasn't healthy enough to play anymore. When he switched from Ramsey to Penix in 2019, Penix was the starter so long as he was healthy. The only times that we kind of saw maybe quarterback changes last year, largely, that felt sort of performance based. It also sort of turned out Connor Bazelak was more banged up than we thought he was. Brendan Sorsby got that. Was it Penn State where Brendan Sorsby got that weird one series, and then they went to Dexter Williams. I will say, and this is probably just a function of having lived in this this quarterback battle for too long. And, this is the time of year where we really all just need to see some football. You talk about expansion, expansion never happens during the football season because everyone's finally busy with the football or the basketball or whatever. College sports need college sports to come back. And so I may be just kind of a prisoner of a certain moment in this, but I do more opposing radio during Ohio State week than I think I do the entire rest of the year. And getting this question so much from Ohio State, and in terms of Ohio State, Ryan Day saying Kyle McCord is going to be the starter, but he's going to play both at some point, just sort of in the way the game dictates and whatever else. I have gotten the question of whether Tom Allen would rotate, and I've always said no, and yet a small part of me now wonders if he will. You've been at some of these practices and scrimmage situations just the same as me. It has been incredibly difficult to separate these guys. And there's not, it's not like one is, they have different skill sets in some ways, but it's not like one is a lot more experienced or one is just crazy athletic compared to the other one, much faster, much, just such a dual threat. It's not like there's one that can, throw the ball, to the the opposite 20-yard line from his knees on, in the end zone. There's not some sort of obvious trait that separates them. And we have not really seen them able to separate from one another, at least in what we've been allowed to see of fall camp. And so I just kind of wonder if there's a small voice in the back of my mind wondering if Tom Allen might play them both and see if the game separates, because this is just true in all sports, and it's the impossible thing to quantify, but there are players who just practice one way and then the game brings out something else in them. It's not a perfect comparison by any means, but the team I coached for Little Five, we had a kid a few years ago who, was a freshman. Sometimes it was hard to get him to, commit to his workouts, and he'd be a little bit flaky on certain things. And, and we put him on the race day team, but we weren't totally sure. And then on a race day, man, he was just the steadiest dude you've ever seen. And I watched him ride half of one race, and I just thought, you will ride for 4 years, and whatever you do the other 364 days a year, I will have zero doubts that on race day you will show up. I know exactly what I'm going to get from you for the next 4 years. And he was a gamer. His name was Jack Warner. He was the most sort of like steady, reliable 7, 8 out of 10 every time he was on the bike. Didn't matter. And maybe you give both guys a shot and something, the game brings something out in one of them. I don't know. But this is also, again, me kind of talking myself into things that I would not have believed to even 2 weeks ago. So it's hard for me to sit here and say that with any conviction.
On the basketball side, also very, very busy, Zach, this weekend, next as well, an entire month, but a lot of visits coming. It starts with Jalen Harrelson, of course, an in-state product who has been a top target of Indiana for a long time, but he has now become a top target of a lot of people. A 6'7" point guard who will be in. You've got Malachi Moreno and Darius Adams as well. So it's a big weekend. The next weekend, Montverde guys coming in, but this Mike Woodson is going to be a busy guy this month as well.
Indiana has, it has been pretty clear to me anyway that Indiana was not super convinced on the 2023 class. I think, given when they committed them, they clearly really liked Gabe Cupps and Ja'Kai Newton. They pursued a few other players in that class, but there was, I think it is fair to look at what they've done in 2024 now and say there was a real, there was a purposeful decision made not to invest in the same way in 2023, that there just weren't enough kids that they liked the makeup of, the talent, the traits, that they thought they could, if they recruited them, those kids would reasonably reciprocate. Because, of course, everybody loved to recruit the number one player in the country, but, it's a two-way street. They always clearly, I think it is fair to say this now, saw 2024 as a lot more stocked with opportunities for them to recruit at a high level. And I know you're talking about some 2025 kids, and it seems like that's shaping up maybe a little bit similarly. But in the same way that this time last year, it felt like you could look at, sort of the long-term sort of roster plan for Mike Woodson and say, and when I say long-term, I mean, listen, with the portal, with one and done, long-term roster planning is like 18 months now. It's not 3, 4, 5 years the way we would have thought about it a decade or two ago. If we were sitting here on September 1st, 2022, we would have said with a great degree of confidence, yeah, there's some 2023 kids Indiana really like to have if they're willing to come. Arrington Page, for example, comes to mind. But that it was clear, even at this time of year, that Indiana was going to be very invested in the transfer portal in spring 2023. And it started to become clear around this time last year, and I think is certainly clear now, that Indiana's plan has been, we'll keep a smaller list of targets in 2023 if we can get some of them, great. But 2024, and then on from that, 2025, we are going to really hit those classes hard, and we're going to try and swing a heavy bat and see what we can't bring in. And you talk about, you're right, this weekend, next weekend, I think the weekend after next is Austin Schwartz in town, I believe. I
got
think
the Montverde guys coming in. Liam McNeely.
That's next weekend, and then is Schwartz coming in that weekend, or is he coming in the weekend after that? I can't remember which. But then I think
he's the weekend after.
I think there's a decent chance you're going to see Boogie Fland on campus at some point in October. In fact, maybe better than a decent chance. It is going to be a busy fall by design for that staff. They wanted this. And, what we've all kind of said is the turnabout of that is, hey, if you shoot for the moon, you better at least land amongst the stars. Like you can't take on all these heavy hitters and just not get any of them. But the flip side is, if you get one or two, suddenly you have some momentum. And we've seen this in recruiting before. Suddenly you got a couple, maybe top 20 players, and they start making calls to other top 20 players that are targets, guys that know them from EYBL or camps or whatever it might be. And suddenly you've got that momentum where everybody says, well, I want to be part of that special class that, for top 30 kids or something like that. This has always been the plan, I guess is my point. And that's a very long-winded way of saying it. Forgive me. But this has always felt like the plan, to really set themselves up to try and swing for the fences in 2024 and then probably again in 2025 to some extent. And that'll be dictated a little bit by how guys develop and who's ready to move on and all that kind of stuff. But, they're going to be very busy. They plan to be very busy. They didn't stumble into this. They didn't wake up one day and say, oh my God, look at all these great players we have coming to, that are excited about coming to Bloomington. This is what they wanted. This is, I would bet you this time a year ago, if you sat down in a candid moment with the staff, they would say, our ideal sort of path, beyond maybe a couple of these kids already having committed to Indiana, obviously, is that we are going into 2024, the fall cycle for 2024, really looking to make some big splashes. And that's what they've given themselves the opportunity to do, basically almost every weekend this month. And I suspect at least a couple weekends next month. Of course, Hoosier Hysteria, obviously, being a potentially big one.
I agree. Dustin, I was looking over at a tweet from Dustin DePierre. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. I'll see you tomorrow, my friend, out at Memorial Stadium for the game.
Sounds good. 3:30. Let's get it rolling.
It'll be going. Make sure you give him a follow. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Metalworks Brewing Company, a part of the Wow Food Group, right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
What's up, guys?
There's the Greek.
Good morning, sir.
No loud noises, please.
Did you enjoy the game last night?
We had our Amador sponsored tailgate. We went through 20 bottles of bourbon.
Yeah, I can tell.
Oh man,
I can tell.
I felt like I felt like I took one down myself. We probably had 150 people at our tailgate yesterday.
That is awesome.
It was incredible. Yeah, we had a great time.
What was the Nebraska to Minnesota fan ratio?
We could talk about that on air, but I would say there was a couple thousand empty seats. It's a 50,000 seat stadium, so I'd say 40,000 Minnesota fans, 8,000 Nebraska fans.
Okay.
I mean, they didn't take the stadium over or anything like that.
Not like the way Ohio State's going to do with Indiana tomorrow, as they typically do.
Yeah, but that's harder to tell because everybody's going to be wearing red.
Yeah, no, and it's the photo opportunity, the annual photo opportunity for Indiana.
Yeah.
Usually the only time they sell out the stadium.
Yeah. Oh man, that's rough. That's rough.
It's media guide day.
It's what?
Media guide day. Yeah, you take the picture for the media.
Oh, you get the media guide. Oh god, I used to love that as a kid. I would always pick up extra ones, and then I would cut the players' faces out and make things with them and the Tiger Hawks and stuff.
yeah, these things.
Oh, love them, man.
I saw people are already using the
not as good
joke of Iowa's defense scoring.
They're not as good as these things, Jeffrey.
Oh yeah. Who does? Oh, okay. Directory.
You know what those are?
I do not.
That is nothing but phone numbers, records.
Oh, nice.
Emails, names.
Ooh.
I'm
not in the media.
Email. Well.
No.
Remember to stick to Big Ten football, Jimbo.
Yeah, that's all I got. I can assure you that's all my brain can handle today. And we got 13 more games, or what? 10 more games. Well, we could break down last night and then 10 more games this weekend. Double bet last night, Jimmy. Oh, sorry.
I did not bet. I talked myself out of the stupid Utah game.
All right, 15 seconds, guys. Here we go.
A tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Hank's Pizza Mac. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on It's Friday. Jim Coyle coming to you from the high atop the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Joined now by Jeffrey the Greek. Brought to you by Hank's Pizza Mac, where you can find tot bowls, back bowls, and great pizzas located on North Walnut. How's it going, brother?
Oh, just had an awesome night. Opening night to Big Ten football last night. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I can see. How was that?
Yeah, for those listeners that don't know, the Eyes on Big podcast is sponsored by the Amador Whiskey Company. The Amador Whiskey was flowing at the tailgate party that we hosted yesterday, which was a blast. Shout out,
by the way.
Oh, it's great stuff. Get the Chardonnay. I promise you'll like it.
It's wine.
And then, it is bourbon that is finished in wine barrels.
Wine casks.
So
gotcha.
Yep. So you get like a little sweet finish with the Chardonnay. I mean, it doesn't taste like Chardonnay. It tastes like bourbon, but it gives a little sweet finish. So, and we had like a barrel with my name on it, Jim. How cool is that? Jeffrey the Greek on one side, Amador Whiskey on the other that the company gave me. Gave me and Big Kurt. He got his own barrel too. We filled that with a Manhattan mixture, so it sat in the barrel overnight. Oh my gosh, that was phenomenal. But anyways, then we walked into the game, and I don't know about you guys, but that was a crazy, wacky, fun. Come on, Jim, let's not start out like that.
I thought I was guessing what you were going to say. I was not judging.
I mean, did both offenses struggle? Yes. I mean, there's no way you can deny that. But I mean, in the end, what was a more entertaining game from start to finish, the Minnesota-Nebraska game or the Florida-Utah game? I mean, Utah put that game away by middle of the second quarter, what I saw last night. So this game was incredible.
One of us was bourbon drunk and one of us wasn't. So maybe your interpretation is a little skewed.
Possibly. But anyways,
I think people but Nebraska fans can't be happy. I'm sure that they expected a little bit more from the start of the Matt Rule era than 10 points. And Minnesota only scoring 13. That's got to be a disappointment if they won, so they don't care. But what a low-scoring game for a Minnesota team at home.
Yeah, life without Mo Ibrahim. They're going to have to start figuring that out here pretty quick. Mo Ibrahim was their, all-everything running back the last, it seems like 8 years. They were having troubles running the ball. I do think part of that is because Nebraska has a much improved defense. Minnesota's had a good defense for 2-3 years now. So, I mean, I expected Minnesota to have a good defense. That was my Amador double barrel lock of the week, the under 45.5. They could have played it twice and it would have stayed under. So absolutely phenomenal situation there. But anyways, like both good defenses. But, just walking into the stadium, probably, I would say 40,000 Gopher fans, about 8,000 Nebraska fans, but the electricity was there. People were juiced and ready to watch college football, and man, it's just good to have Big Ten football back.
That it certainly is, and I believe it continues tonight, as well as there is another Big Ten game on the slate.
Yep,
I lost my
Central Michigan. Central Michigan at Michigan State. Michigan State is favored by.
That'll be horrible.
Yeah, I don't know.
How much? What are they favored by in that game? 14 and a half.
14 and a hook. Yeah. So that line has not. Central Michigan is not a great MAC team, but they're pretty good. Like kind of bowl level MAC team. Michigan State's got to find an identity. So I don't know. I think I like Central Michigan in the hook, in the 14 and a half in that game.
Well, yeah, I mean, you almost have to. That's the favorite. So and the bigger blah blah blah. Yeah. Let's see. Do we have any other Big Ten games? tonight, or is that it?
Nope, that's the only one. And then we got 8.
Louisville.
Saturday.
Louisville plays Georgia Tech. There's a good game.
Ooh, it's Louisville, Georgia Tech. Okay. Which does Indiana play Louisville's second or third game? I'd have to look.
They're week 3. They play week 3.
Week 3. Okay,
Week
so
3
there's 2 games
in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium.
At Lucas Oil. So yeah. By the way, we got to get some Hoosier talk in there. I got to tell you, I'm really interested in the Indiana Ohio State game. Okay,
well,
does that
we
mean,
all are because we don't know. So there's because we don't know.
I'm calling your defense the Island of Misfit Toys because like there's so many new faces that are in there. I have this feeling, I've had it since about late July, early August, since I did my Indiana deep dive. I've had this feeling that maybe these pieces coming together are going to be a little bit better than some people realize. I think there's a real chance that some of those guys on the D line are going to pop. And I think they can get some pressure from the linebackers. Because I feel like if Tom Allen has some decent pieces to work with, he'll put a decent defense out there. And he's smart enough to know that Ohio State is mostly unproven at their tackles, offensive tackles, and at quarterback. I don't know. I mean, I know this is a middle school level take, but I would just blitz the heck out of Ohio State. I know it's going to leave you open with those wide receivers sometime, but just blitz the heck out of them. See if you can make a young quarterback make a mistake or two.
And that's the issue. The one knock on Indiana's defense that I keep hearing is that they may be weak in the secondary, which is a real Achilles heel against this particular team who has the best receiving core in the country. So exactly what you're saying, that could be disastrous. But I do agree. Not knowing much about them because we haven't seen them, I still feel they're better across the board. I know they're better at the offensive line because of coaching, number one, but they've also made some upgrades. They got some big guys back. Bedford. The running backs room was already good, and it's still good. It got a little bit better, but you still have Jalen Lucas and Josh Henderson. The question is, I think the line's going to be better, but can they block? Can they open holes? Can they protect the quarterback? Boom. Yeah. If that doesn't happen, nothing else freaking matters. But the quarterback, now we have to move to the quarterback who we don't know who that's going to be. How is he going to handle the most absurd pressure he's going to see ever in his life?
Yeah, I would say the matchup that would scare me the most if I'm a Hoosier fan is the Hoosier O-line versus that Buckeye line. I mean, it's been a couple years since Ohio State's defensive line has been considered a monster. I mean, it was like the Bosa's through Chase Young. There was just an absolute, game wrecker every time. It hasn't been the case the last 2 years. So like people have cooled on their, talking about Ohio State's, D line, but I think they'll start paying attention here pretty quick because this is a really good Ohio State D line. But on the other side, I do think there's a chance Indiana's D line can be a stalemate or even favor Indiana if what I think I could see could happen. If that's the case, like let's just go under the assumption that Indiana's D line plays well versus Ohio State's offensive line, then I absolutely love the plus 30.5 points for Indiana. This is a home game, Big Ten team. I know it's Ohio State, but
you mean plus 30.5.
Isn't that what I said? I think I said plus 30.5, didn't I? But anyways, over 2
plus
touchdowns. I definitely meant plus 30.5. So
plus 30. I do too, because here's why I think it is, because I agree with everything you're saying. And I where most people, well, none of us know. I think they play one quarterback and stick with one quarterback, whoever he is.
And who do we think that's going to be? Okay. Who do we think it's going to be?
I've said Brendan Sorsby.
I've said Taven Jackson. We've had different opinions on this the entire time.
Most people have guessed Taven Jackson.
Okay, I've guessed Taven Jackson, but we don't know though. I would
No.
want Taven Jackson in this game simply because of the escapability, and maybe he can, pick up a 3rd and 7 with his legs
But
type of deal.
We don't know that he's better at than Brendan Sorsby.
And there's been people,
Okay.
and Jim, you've heard this too, I know. There's people that have said Brendan Sorsby is better with his legs than Taven Jackson.
Okay.
Even though you would
It may
expect
not-
the other way around.
Yeah,
It may not better,
okay.
but just as good. So it's all. We'll find out tomorrow. Indiana Creek Walker thinks it's clearly Jackson. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who it is. Can they handle the pressure, running the offense, dealing with the situations they're going to deal with? Because they've never dealt with this ever. Not what they're going to see tomorrow. And Ohio State is going to do everything they can because they know that. They're like, oh, we got a rookie back here.
Oh, yeah.
So they are going to do everything they can.
Come at him. Yeah, I mean they're going to come at him. They're not going to let drawing a blank. Lucas, sorry, I had Jackson in my head, but they're going to try to not let Lucas beat them. I would think they would focus on essentially plugging up the middle against the good running backs and then focusing, 3rd downs and whatnot on Lucas. But I still think Lucas will make a play. I think Lucas will make a play in special teams. I just feel like if Indiana gets me 14 points, I feel pretty good that they can keep Ohio State, somewhere under 50 to cover the game, under 45, whatever. So I don't know. That's what I'm seeing. I think I just have this gut feeling that midway through the second quarter, the narrative will of course be, does Ohio State suck? Right? Because if it's a close game, that's what people are going to say. Oh, what's wrong with Ohio State? I think it'll be more that Indiana's tougher than people think, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we will. And I the one thing I've said, not knowing, I can't wait for this game just to get a gauge on the team for the rest of the year, because I agree with a lot that you're saying, that they're just better across the board. They're better.
And what you're saying is Indiana is better.
Room.
Indiana is better across the board than what they were last year, is what you're saying.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
As a team,
yes,
not that Ohio State. And
I think
going
that's
forward,
the case.
if they are, I think they have the opportunity to put them. I know they have the opportunity, if they are, to put themselves in a position just to make a bowl game. There are games. There are enough games on the schedule. This is not one of them that I expect to win, but you got to win the Louisvilles, those Rutgers, Maryland, Purdue.
I would say
games. Those are the games you got to win.
I don't think this is necessarily a litmus game for Indiana this weekend, so much. But the next 3 games obviously would be. I mean, you got to pick up a win in the second game, and then we'll see that Louisville game 3. That'll be the first. Are we making a bowl or not swing game? In my opinion, I mean, I think they're going to be 1-1 going into that game. So that's the big game. But there's definitely things you can start looking at and working on week 1, even if it's against Ohio State. So it'll be exciting to see.
Absolutely, brother. Well, I cannot wait to do it again next week. We'll see how it turns out. What are your give me 3 locks?
Okay. Honestly, Indiana plus 30.5. I really do like that.
Me too.
Another one too is I think the line has come down too much to Fresno State. That's Purdue starting at home, so I'll take Purdue to cover. I think it's all the way down to 3.5. Another one I like too, Buffalo and the points, getting 4 touchdowns versus the Badgers. We don't even know how good the Badgers are yet. So Buffalo picked 3rd. Like, they're a bowl team, 3rd in the MAC. They're a bowl quality level team. I don't think they're going to beat Wisconsin, but 28 points is just too much for me. So I'll take the Bulls.
And the Purdue game, you're saying they're going to cover that spread because it's just gotten too close with Fresno?
Yeah, I mean, early game flying across country for Fresno State. It's a tougher place than I think people are understanding Fresno State's in right there. And I don't think Purdue is going to be a world beater. I think I have them at 6-6, which is actually kind of higher than what some people have them at. But I think they're good enough to win the game. And if I think they're good enough to win the game, I think they can cover essentially what is a field goal.
New coach, new system. We'll certainly find out, brother. We'll appreciate you and look forward to it. We'll see what happens next week.
Enjoy the big football, gents.
Jeffrey the Greek, appreciate you, man. Make sure you check out Eyes on Big Podcast with Jeffrey the Greek and Big Kurt. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
We're back with more. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload joins us next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. Perfect lead into Purdue right there, baby.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting tomorrow. It should be going to be very interesting, I think.
You sound like you're on. I don't mean to interrupt you, Travis, but you sound like you're on a CB radio or something right now. Your volume, not your volume, but your microphone sounds interesting.
I think it's his headphones.
Maybe.
No, it sounds like it's. I don't. Yeah, it might be coming through your headphones.
Okay, I'm on my Bluetooth headphones. Let me undo the Bluetooth, see if that helps.
Yeah, let's try that out.
All right.
Much better.
Yeah, let's try that out. Is that better?
There we go. Much better.
All right, that sounds cool then. But yeah, it's going to be interesting tomorrow. I not sure what to expect, but I think that it's the type of game where Purdue has to win it if they're going to go to a bowl game. And like you guys just mentioned for Indiana and Louisville. So
I love how Jeffrey the Greek tried to say Louisville like people from Louisville, even though I know he really wanted to say it the correct
Did he? I didn't notice. I didn't pick
he
that
did.
up.
He said Louisville, or at least he tried to say it like that.
Well, it's probably because he heard me say it.
Well, you usually say Louisville when you say.
Well, I try to on purpose, but if I don't think, I slip and say Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to say Louisville on purpose just to piss people off. I was born in Louisville.
Interestingly enough, whenever I record commercials for Louisville, they tell me to say it like Louisville, like not Louisville, not like the super redneck way, but they want me to say Louisville. So it's like kind of halfway in between.
It's the same thing to me because it's not Lou of nothing. It's Louis. It was the city was named after King. The city was named after King Louis, not King Lua.
But that's the thing.
There was never anybody
Louisvillians
named
pride
King
themselves
Lua.
on the fact that they say things the way that they want to. That's the thing.
They pride themselves on their lack of enunciation. I understand that. They are proud of their lack of education.
They have a wall with all the different pronunciations, and it's like 15 different ones.
I have seen that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, they've got a shirt and all that stuff.
All right. I'll go ahead and bring us back in. Got about 30 seconds.
Swing at the Golf Club at Eagle Point, and they have a sweet deal for all returning students, no matter where you go to school. At the Golf Club at Eagle Point, students can play for the rest of 2023 for just $299. That's right, play as many rounds as you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Friday, September 1. Hope you're doing well. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload joins us now. Travis, just saying that it is now official that the ACC welcomes Stanford, Cal, and SMU. I mean, that didn't take long. They just voted to extend the invitations when I started this show, and now I just saw something that says it's official from John Blau, a former IU beat writer, now covering Clemson, but just sent out a repost from the ACC on Twitter that says the ACC welcomes Cal, SMU, and Stanford to the league starting next season. So there's that, which nobody we'll talk about later at a different time. But
that means the All Coasts Conference now.
Yeah, whatever. That's they're. I've said that they still suck in football, so who cares? It really, it's like, so what? Who cares? But oh well. Big weekend for Indiana. Obviously, big weekend for Purdue. Different scenarios, quite different scenarios. Indiana starting off with the juggernaut hosting the number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes to open the season, which will not be fun. We do not know who Indiana's quarterback is yet. There's just so many things we don't know about Indiana. As Jeffrey the Greek called their defense the island of misfit toys because they have so many transfers, which they do, and they've got a ton of good transfers in from schools, Texas Tech, Texas, Auburn, just all over the place. So I don't know what to expect, and I cover them. So I'm just waiting to see what happens and to gauge the team going forward from there. I think that Indiana, like Greek does, gets inside the spread. But that's about all I'm expecting in that regard. But I'm just looking to see where have they improved? Are they better at these different places, specifically the offensive line, which just crushed them last year like a bug, every game virtually. And then how can this quarterback handle what's coming at him? So it's going to be interesting to see Ohio State, what they have, because they've got a lot of new quarterback, new things going on. So there are a lot of things to get from this particular game.
Yeah, I think so too. And, I think Purdue's in very much the same boat because they've got a lot of transfers on both sides of the football, especially on defense. You've got 2 transfer cornerbacks, and I have to assume that they're doing well because one of the guys that was the starter last year, he was back and then suddenly just jumped in the transfer portal and left and is now at Mississippi State. And we're talking, he did this 2-3 weeks ago. So it's going to be real fascinating to see. And then this is a game that I think Purdue absolutely has to win if it's going to go to the postseason this year, because there's no gimmies on the schedule except, maybe Northwestern is later in the season. But by then, that's probably not going to matter for a bowl game or not, if that's your gimme.
Yeah, I guess that is one good thing, I guess, that weighs in Indiana's favor. They're not playing one of those games that they have to win, that they're expected to win for hopes of making a bowl. This is a game that I don't expect them to win. So they don't have that pressure, at least, and they could get that out of the way. But it is for Purdue. It's a home game, and it is a game that they have to have, like you said, because you don't have that many games in the Big Ten that are, I don't want to call gimmies because there are no gimmies hardly in the Big Ten, like you said, but it does not get easier. Everybody is getting better with the transfers. Now it has changed everything. Purdue having this new offense, so I think that Purdue fans should be pretty confident. You've got a hell of a coach coming over, and the success that Ryan Walters had as defensively for Illinois, and then he brings in, you've got Graham Harrell as an offensive coordinator. So an exciting type of offense. So I don't think that Purdue's going to miss much as far as offensively. The changes, whatever they are probably going to be subtle to the fans.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hudson Card is stepping into a real good situation. The offense seems to suit him. He seems to suit the offense. So I'm not expecting a ton of, real struggles offensively. He's got a good running back to kind of take the pressure off of him. He's got some talented receivers that may not have produced a ton yet because of injury, because they've had a Charlie Jones, they've had a David Bell, but I really think the offense should be okay. But the defense, man, that back 4 is kind of, it's kind of shaky, honestly. We don't know what we're going to get out of both cornerbacks. And my largest concern offensively is the offensive line. Purdue is still missing its starting center. Gus Hartwig is going to be out this week. He's recovering from a pretty significant knee injury last year. He's expected to be back later on, but he's one of Purdue's best offensive linemen, and in the middle of the offense, that's going to be key. So I'm hoping that they avoid injury. It's going to be nice if they avoid some injuries, especially at tackle, because there is not a lot of depth at tackle. And if you have one or two of those guys go down, I think Purdue is in some serious trouble offensively.
Well, and you just said a key word that I talked about Indiana too, since this is not a game they're expected to win, but when you're playing against a team that is obviously talent-wise, you can't ignore there's a talent gap between Ohio State and Indiana. Hell, there's a talent gap between Ohio State and most teams in the Big Ten. But coming out of this game as injury-free as possible and getting a gauge on where you actually are, that's, I think, what – and to be competitive. If they can be competitive, well, that's going to give you great confidence. I think that's going to be the best case scenario for Indiana. Obviously, winning for Purdue is going to be the best case scenario. And I don't think it matters if it's a close game or not. Winning is just going to be winning. Winning matters most. And getting that first win for this new coaching staff is of the utmost importance. Now the stadium improvements, are they completed?
For the most part, yes. The south end zone, they're still working on, I believe it's a student athlete dining facility that's kind of tucked underneath the new grandstand there and everything else. But all the rest of the stuff is done and it's going to be ready to go. The new tunnel debuts tomorrow, named after Joe Tiller, who it's really about time that they name something there after Joe Tiller for everything that he did with the program. And the new bleachers look
Tiller
great.
Tunnel, baby. The Tiller Tunnel.
The Tiller Tunnel. I'm looking forward to that. That should be good. The new south end zone looks really nice. That's where the students are going to be. That's where the band is going to be. I know my wife and son, that's where our seats have been for years. And they're like, oh, great. It's going to be really freaking loud now by us. But, you want that atmosphere. And I think you're going to see a pretty good atmosphere tomorrow. Everyone's excited to see what everything looks like once you get in there. We've seen all the pictures, but we haven't seen people in there yet. So you get a good crowd in there, and I think it's going to help out.
Absolutely. That's another thing I was getting ready to say. Having the newness, it's a new season, but you've got these new stadium upgrades that are now coming together. Is there going to be aesthetically something that you're going to see? I mean, I've been up there for the games and I've saw that they were doing construction and whatnot, but I don't know everything that they were doing. Aesthetically, what will fans see?
It's going to the way that they've designed it is it kind of looks like the front of a cow catcher. Some of the seats are a little bit angled there in the south end zone. I think that's what they were going for. And it's below the, huge giant, the huge new scoreboard that's been there, I think, since the 2020 season. So that's kind of what they're looking for. And then one of the cooler features that they have above the tunnel in that area that they hollowed out, that's going to be the parking spot for the Boilermaker Special. So it will be parked in the stadium, kind of in its own, marquee spot, almost elevated like Victory Lane at IMS. So it's going to be interesting. They're going to have like a whole ceremony, I think like a half hour before the game of when the special comes in and parks there and everything else. So it should look pretty nice. And I like that south end zone is going to be filled in. It's no longer just this big tent where you can go and get drinks.
Yeah, and then, of course, winning makes everything better. And so if they are also able to put a win together, that would make things pretty party-like in West Lafayette as they go into next week. Who does Purdue play next week? I don't have the schedule pulled up.
They are at Virginia Tech, which is one of those really interesting games. Again, I think it's one that Purdue has to get if they're going to go to a bowl. Virginia Tech was 3-9 last year. This is not your vintage Virginia Tech. They don't have a lot of high expectations this year. And just looking around their message board, they named their starting quarterback, and the general response from Virginia Tech fans was, okay. So, but it's still a road game. It is a Power 5 non-conference road game. Nothing is easy there. I mean, Purdue has struggled on the road outside the Big Ten for years and years and years. They've lost at Nevada. They've lost at Rice. They've lost at Marshall. So I don't think you can take anything for granted in a game like that. I would say Purdue is favored as of right now, especially if they beat Fresno State. But again, nothing is guaranteed in that. And if they're able to get off to a 2-0 start, I think you're going to see a lot of excitement for the week 3 home game. It's a night game. It's on NBC, and it's against Syracuse, a team that beat them in the final minute last year. That was a game Purdue had won, and it completely
that was a surprising
imploded
loss,
on penalties.
man. Yeah, that was a surprising loss last year.
I was watching that game. That was the day my nephew got married, and I'm watching that as the ceremony is about to start, and I'm just like, oh, great, fantastic.
And getting that 3-0 start is gigantic. I in writing the prediction in the Hoosier.com, that's one of the things I wrote. Remember the days when Indiana would start with that good old-fashioned red velvet cupcake? You'd have Miami of Ohio and Bowling Green and Kent State, and you'd be 3-0 going into the Big Ten and give a little confidence. I'm like, that ain't now. Those were the olden days. Indiana has started against a Big Ten opponent in 5 out of the last 7 years, and this is the second time it's against Ohio State. The last time I think they were ranked number 1. So it's not Indiana. The Big Ten has not helped Indiana, and I think that's detrimental to the Big Ten. Personally, you're not helping your own product that way, but you got to play who's on your schedule, regardless of that. Indiana will have this game out of the way. Then they'll have the opportunity to play those non-con games. They've got games that they're going to have to win, but that's why coming out of this game as injury-free as possible, that's key. If you have a key injury coming out of this game, going right into the games that you know you have to win, that makes life a little difficult as well.
Yeah, especially if it's at a position where you don't have a lot of depth. I know you mentioned that Indiana, you don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback. Well, if you have the starter go out there and he gets hurt in the first quarter, suddenly you have a bad situation that's even worse.
Absolutely. Purdue going back to their Drew Brees era jerseys.
Love it. I absolutely love it. Those are some of my favorite ones they've had over the years.
Justin asking, does Purdue still have that stud from Boonville, the running back?
Oh, yes. Devin Mockabee. He is the starter. I think it's funny how the first thing that Ryan Walters did in that very first meeting where he has the entire team come in as head coach, he gave Mockabee a scholarship. And he specifically mentioned, he's like, you were a walk-on last year that ran for 100 yards on our defense, which was the best in the nation in several statistical categories. That's worth a scholarship in my book. So he immediately gave him a scholarship to start his first meeting with the team. And Mockabee, just such a great story. Came out of nowhere, really. Didn't even play in the season opener. Only played mop-up minutes last year against Indiana State. And then nearly ran for 1,000 yards. I know I do a podcast with former Purdue running back Corey Sheets, and we determined there have only been, I believe, 7 1,000-yard rushing seasons in Purdue history. Corey was the last one to do it in 2008. So that's kind of the expectation for Mockabee this year, is to get that 1,000-yard mark and kind of his goal. And suddenly, if he does that with 2 years of eligibility left, you're looking at a guy that could threaten Mike Allstott's all-time school record. So obviously still very, very early on that. You want to kind of pump the brakes because Allstott was Allstott. But if he finishes this season around 2,000 yards for his career, he's only going to need, I think it's like 1,400 to get to Allstott.
That's crazy. What are your predictions for Purdue and Indiana?
I'm cautiously optimistic on Purdue. I think they get the win tomorrow. I'm a little nervous because Fresno State is just a really tough group of 5 program. You look at what they've done the last few years.
Are they better than 3.5?
I'm with you in that if it's a game Purdue can win, I think they can cover that. I think they can win by about a touchdown, but you just never know late and how things go. And then for Indiana, boy, that is, I mean, Ohio State's a Death Star, man. You gotta hope you have the small thermal exhaust port right below the main port, and Purdue had that with Rondale Moore a few years ago. But is there a difference maker that can get Indiana even close to that? You said what the spread's 30.5.
Yes.
Ooh, I mean, it depends on how out of hand it gets early. Again, like you said, if Indiana keeps it close, that's encouraging. I mean, if they get inside that 30.5, I think that's encouraging. But I don't know, man. I just Ohio State can just turn it on at any time, I think, and with so many weapons, that it's hard to make a call on that.
I hear you. It is for all of us. Well, brother, we'll certainly find out. We'll be watching all weekend, and we'll review it all next week.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it. Finally, we get to talk some actual football. So,
absolutely. It's here, baby. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. For Purdue fans, Purdue Rivals, go there for all your content covering the Boilers. We've got no more coming up today, baby. That's going to wrap it up. Ready to go watch some college football today, tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, Monday. It's a great weekend for it. Cannot thank everybody enough. Thanks to Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.substack.com. Of course, Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, Jeffrey the Greek, Travis Miller from Boiler Upload, John the producer for keeping us between the white lines, and most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. We're back Monday. Nope, we're back Tuesday to review it all again. Until then, have a great weekend. I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.